Get ready to take a flamethrower to the official narrative and learn what the elites don't want you to know. You're listening to The Tom Woods Show.
Hi, everybody. Tom Woods here. It's episode 2696 of The Tom Woods Show. We have the great Jon Schaffer with us. Jon, you will know, I hope, if you have a discriminating ear, as the songwriter, the lead guy, guitarist for Iced Earth, but he had numerous other projects as well, Demons and Wizards, Sons of Liberty, other projects, and he got caught up in the whole January 6th thing, to put it very mildly, and had his life turned upside down, but now he is vindicated, and he has resumed his life, but down rather a different path from earlier. Yep. But it's a story that has barely yet been told, and old Woods here wants to make sure it gets told. So, Jon, it's great to talk to you. Welcome back.
You too, Tom. It's good to talk to you, man.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's start off here, kind of in the same way you started off in an interview you did with Mark Victor. Let's start off with, because you have been a guest on this show before. We have talked politics. So let's refresh everybody's memory. I will say that, so Iced Earth is a metal band, and I will say, as I'm sure you are aware, that the metal world is not, or let's say the world of the musicians and the reporters for like metal publications. These people, you know, you would think these would be tough guys, right? I mean, you got you got the black metal people with their corpse paint, and you got the death metal people singing about decapitating people, whatever, and disemboweling people. You'd think these would be tough people. But when push comes to shove, as soon as the COVID people come along, they hide in a corner like a little girl. I mean, it's incredible. So it's like you and Phil Labonte and like one or two other people who actually are tough guys. But anyway, so how would you describe your political views?
Well, I'm just a pro-freedom guy. I mean, and I have to admit that there was a point in my life where I bought into the neocon stuff. It was a long time ago.
A lot of us did.
Yeah. And I think people need to grow and change their positions as they learn more. And I'm always willing to be convinced that I'm wrong about something. So, but I think it takes a certain kind of intestinal fortitude to admit you're wrong about things and that you were seeing the world through a false view. And it just continues to grow for me. And Ron Paul was a huge part of that. And I really got behind the Ron Paul movement back in 2007, I guess, 8, around that time period is when I really became aware. So I'm just a freedom guy. That's the main thing that for me. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's a uniparty. It's a joke that I can't buy into that narrative anymore.
Okay, so January 6th, you were present for that, for the rally, and you described yourself to me. You said, "Look, I'm no Trump sycophant. That isn't why I was there."
Right.
So why were you there?
Well, because I believed it was the collapse of the republic. I mean, as I explained, with all of the extreme COVID hysteria, the overreach from the government, I don't think you can get any more fascist than that. When you're these giant corporations are getting record profits and small businesses being crushed and people are forced to take an experimental medication, if you want to call it that, whatever, or lose their jobs or get kicked out of the military. I mean, and that's textbook fascism. So there was a lot of stuff like that was going on that I felt was very disturbing. And then, of course, you have the election part of it, which frankly, I would have been just as outraged if the roles were reversed. But we've been on this path for a very long time, and I guess I felt optimistic that the people were waking up. I think they are, but I think we have quite a challenge ahead of us. I mean, we're in that phase, I believe, where times have been good for so long that it's created a lot of weak men, and weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times, and good times create weak men. And so it's like, I think we're in that phase of this. I hate to see Western civilization collapse I'm not sure if it's stoppable, but I think there's fertile ground to spread the ideas of liberty. And that's what attracted me to, thanks to you hooking me up with the guys at Attorneys for Freedom, but being a part of this because they're activists. And I think we need to have more activist freedom attorneys and judges stand up, because to me, it is it's sort of the guardrails to civilizational collapse. I mean, if we lose all that, then it's not going to be good.
Well, so you're there. What do you see? Like, what's going on? Does it all of a sudden become chaotic just like that, or can you try to paint the scene for us?
Well, I didn't see. It took about an hour to get over there after the speech was done, so there was a lot of stuff going on. In hindsight, like I was explaining in that interview with Mark and Andy, when I got there was a lot of pandemonium. Afterwards, I saw a lot of videos that showed why there was. I believe peaceful protesters were attacked by the Capitol police officers and baited. And I think that if anybody does some research, they'll see that. So, but it was shocking because like just seeing somebody dressed up in MAGA gear trying to smash windows at the Capitol building definitely didn't make sense to me. It just felt really odd. And so I was yelling at those guys to know, I mean, they were up on those planks that painters get on to raise up. And they somehow got up there and were like taking tools and trying to smash windows. I don't think they got very far because it's probably bulletproof glass, but still just the act of vandalism, which is really all I saw. I didn't really see any violence. I saw protesters and people yelling at police and stuff. But it was just the whole thing was surreal, man. I mean, it was a really strange thing, but I didn't see any of the early stuff that started. I didn't actually witness any of that. I saw those videos later, body cam footage and all kinds of stuff that was very disturbing.
Well, but do you have an opinion on whether there were FBI assets there? What do you think about this Ray Epps? Do you have an opinion on him?
I mean, there's a lot of shaky stuff. And I have to say one of my favorite people in Congress is Clay Higgins from Louisiana. And he's been doing a lot to expose this. And so, I mean, I've followed what he's been saying, and I know he's, working there's investigations going on. Whether it's going to go anywhere, who knows, man? I have no idea. But there were definitely agent provocateurs there. Can I say they were FBI? No. I mean, I don't know. I just know that there were definitely bad actors there doing things that are not typical of anything to do with freedom-loving Americans. It just doesn't compute. And I know people were angry, so I get that. But when you look at some of the body cam footage, there was definitely some provocation going on. And those flashbangs that I heard, at the time, I thought there were grenades going off, man. I mean, there were girls coming down the stairs that were crying, freaking out, like saying what they're doing up there, this is not what this is about. So, and I'm hearing these explosions and there's tear gas canisters going out. I'm charging up there. I mean, because, I would have helped anybody that needed help, whether it was a police officer, whether it was a protester, I mean, whatever. And it was just a surreal, crazy time in American history. And I don't know if we're ever going to really know the truth of it, but there's a lot of shady stuff that went on.
Yeah. So you actually went into the Capitol. What were the circumstances there?
Well, like I said in that interview, I witnessed through the door and these are not normal doors. Whatever area of the Capitol I was at, I don't even know what you would call that. I saw through the glass of the door a police officer pointing up to a camera and pointing down to the door like he was telling Central Command to unlock that door, because there's no way you're getting into that building unless it's magnetically sealed and there's no handles. You couldn't even pry it open if you wanted to. It's like a prison. I'm sure it's one of the most secure places in the country. So anyway, he opened that door and a group of people came out. There was another group of people out there that were, as the door was starting to close, they yelled if they could go in. The Capitol police officer confirmed that they could. And then another group of people, some period of time later, I don't really know how long it went. I mean, the time part of this is a little bit of a blur. When they came rushing out, they said, the police are afraid, the cops are afraid, they're beating an old man, let's go. And it was like three different voices. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some bad actors in that particular group to get people to go in. And I got sucked up in the moment there.
Folks, whether you're running a business, doing a side hustle, flipping real estate, or just sick of handing over half your paycheck to fund wars and debt and God knows what else, my friend Matthew Sercely helps you stay smart, compliant, and legally minimize what you pay the IRS. And let's be honest, if you've ever said taxation is theft, well, it's time to stop just saying it, start acting like it. The state thrives on your compliance, your ignorance, and your confusion. Matthew cuts through them to make sure you keep what you can. He helps you understand how the system works so you can stop funding it more than you have to. And by the way, Matthew is one of us. He's been on my cruise, he's been at my murder mystery parties, he's in my elite mastermind, and he's been listening to The Tom Woods Show since episode 3. So you won't have to explain yourself to Matthew. Matthew is a tax attorney, not a CPA, which means your conversations with him are protected by attorney-client privilege. That's a big deal. Try getting that kind of protection from your accountant. Go to agoristtaxadvice.com/woods. That's AGORIST taxadvice.com/woods and grab your free Agorist Tax Toolkit. It's full of powerful tools and templates you can use to get your business in order, track your expenses, and reduce how much the IRS takes from you without crossing any lines. Again, that's agoristtaxadvice.com/woods. Take the first step to keeping what's yours. What did you see once you were inside?
That's the thing, is like the timeline's a little odd in my mind because of all of the things that I had to go through afterwards. But I did see the police line was moving backwards. I saw a professional photographer there. I saw the Capitol police officer that opened the door standing up in the stairway off the left with his arms crossed, just watching everything. At some point, I did see an older man. He looked to me like a biker vet because of the way he was dressed. And I think he might have had some patches regarding military service. That's the first thing that came to my mind. That's a biker vet. And he was sort of pinned up against the wall on the right-hand side, and an officer was hitting him with a baton. That triggered me. But the interesting thing was, and I'd completely forgotten about this until I was speaking with some ICERT, Jon Schaffer supporters. They reminded me that I had this flash of a memory where I grabbed a guy who was all dressed in black and had a black backpack. And I remember grabbing him. I had a really shady feeling about him. And they were like, "No, man, you grabbed two." And there was the one guy in the black backpack apparently had like his arms like he was lunging at a police officer. And they sent me the video after I was doing this talk with them. And I grabbed two guys and pulled them back away from the police. That was completely gone from my memory. And when they started talking about it, I was like, wait, I do remember one guy. And they said, no, it was two, man. You grabbed two guys and pulled them off the cops. That was gone. And then I saw the footage and I was like, oh, wow, I remember the one. And it is just because there was a lot of really heavy stuff that went on in solitary. And bright lights 24/7, freezing cold.
Well, we'll get to that once we get, because I do want. Obviously, we have to talk about that. But you're inside, and did you get sprayed? You got sprayed with something?
Yeah.
So much of your time, what was it, like 8 to 10 minutes inside the Capitol was spent dealing with that?
Yeah, I think Andy confirmed it was 9 or just shy of 9, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of that time I was hugging the wall, and I did have the bear spray that I took in because somebody tugged at the pack. So it's a holster that has a little tiny Velcro strip, so it wasn't really secure. And so I grabbed it and I locked my elbow and had a death grip on that thing because I didn't want some bad actor to get a hold of it. Even when I was hugging the wall and I couldn't see anything, I had that protected. And then as soon as I was able to see something, I saw a light, so I knew that had to be the entrance. And I walked out there, and there's a smaller staircase that I I made it down, and I heard a female voice ask if I wanted water. And I said, yes, please, and poured water. And eventually I got my sight back. And that was, then I headed back to my hotel.
Okay, so you head back to the hotel. At what point do you realize you're in trouble?
On the drive back to Indiana, my buddy that I was with, I was driving and he was showing me some pictures from his cell phone, like wanted and all that. I didn't even really understand how big of a deal it was. I couldn't believe it until I got out and was seeing like the way the media was painting everybody. It was just, Tom, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Now we need to point out you had bear spray on you and you brought it into the Capitol with you. Now why would you bring that? Is it for protection? Obviously you can't have a gun in DC. So who did you want protection against?
Self-defense, non-lethal self-defense against anybody that would be committing violence. That's who, the groups that were destroying everything in 2020 and, doing all the destruction. There was some concern that there may be some of those there and dressed up in patriot clothes or whatever,
right.
It was just totally a non-lethal self-defense.
Now, was that the main reason you got in trouble? It wasn't because you went in, but because you were carrying that? Because they're not accusing you of violence. Like the government did not accuse you of being violent.
No, I wasn't violent. And if somebody would have been being violent or even destroying property, I would have done my best to stop that. The guys were 15, 20 feet in the air that were like trying to smash these windows that were way up there. So, but I didn't witness any of that kind of stuff. I just witnessed the police being kind of violent, actually. And then those guys that I grabbed, I guess Tom, it happened so fast. And I guess my instincts kicked in because I thought they were attacking the cops. Like, I don't want to attack police. I don't want to attack anybody. It's just not, that's the bear spray is self-defense. But then they hit me with the obstruction charge, which is, I think bear spray was 10 years and the obstruction was 20 years. So the ultimate, at first it was 4 felonies and 2 misdemeanors, and we pleaded down to the 2 felonies, and I was facing potentially 30 years in prison.
So did they tell you to come in, or did they come to your house, or what happened? After you connected me with Attorneys for Freedom, I immediately reached out to them. By that time, it was Friday, probably in the afternoon, East Coast time. And Mark had reached out to the authorities right away and told them, hey, he knows he screwed up. He went in the building. He's got nothing to hide. And I think what happened was that there was just a lot of chaos on their side because of this whole thing. And so it took a while, but then Mark said, you got to surrender, man. It's at some point, I don't know how many days. I don't really remember how many days after. I'm thinking like a week or 10 days, maybe, that he just said, you got to surrender or they're going to come kicking your door in. All right. Let me intervene here to make sure people know who Mark is. So I found out that you were in some kind of trouble. So I called this guy Mark Victor. You might have heard of Mark Victor because he ran for Senate out in Arizona, and there was some controversy about that. But he runs something called Attorneys for Freedom, which seemed to fit the bill. And so this is the Mark that John's talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So he tells you to go ahead and so I presume that's what you did?
Yes.
And then where were you taken? Like, what happened next?
So my local council in Indianapolis suggested that I surrender at Hamilton County because Marion County, the old Marion County, is a complete hellhole. And Hamilton had a contract with the feds also. But the FBI picked me up there and took me to Marion County anyway. I was there for a couple months. Then I went to Hamilton for a few days. And then I went to DC. And then Northern Neck, Virginia was so.
Okay. So you talked about being in solitary. I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, how long and why?
Well, the whole time except for the first 2 days. The first 2 days I was in general population. And then the excuse was that I was all over the media, and I was basically every day and on the front page of all of the Indiana stuff, but also on like USA Today and all over. So, that was the narrative.
Well, and not to mention, I know this is the least of your concerns, but the degenerates who run metal media, of course, were having a field day because they don't like you anyway.
Yeah.
So, of course,
I've always been an outsider with that. I'm not. They're cucks and posers, dude. I'm not a bootlicker, and I will never be. So when wrong's wrong, I'm going to call it. I don't care what party's involved. And, so and they, a lot of those guys were being paid to push the COVID vax. I know that for a fact, and also based on my outspokenness for a very long time, they would have never even bothered. I don't care if they would have offered me $10 million. I would have never done that. Never. There is no dollar amount that you could put on that. Not because I don't know, that I have concerns about it, but still it's wrong. And but that's the world, that's the metal world. It's a lot of weak people pretending to be tough.
Oh, geez, they're some of the most pathetic people around. They did an interview with George Fisher, corpse grinder, and he happened to say how much he hates masks. And they gave him the midwit answer. Well, I don't think anyone likes masks, but they protect. And I thought, are you giving the midwit answer to corpse grinder? Like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, so how long were you in solitary?
3 months.
That's insane, man. I mean, 3 months must have seemed like an eternity.
It did. It's amazing what humans can endure, though. And look, there are a lot of people that had it way worse than me, man. I had, fortunately, the guys that were stuck with public defenders, and justice should be blind. It shouldn't matter. Obviously, we all know that's what it should be, but in that situation, it was not the case. And dude, when I was in DC, there were 2 guys that had cancer that were being denied medical treatment. I mean, to get ibuprofen would take a very long time. And the conditions in DC, in my experience, I can't speak for everybody, it was far better than anything I experienced at the other places. At least, first of all, they'd turn off the light at night. You had the ability to, because you had a switch in your cell, a light switch. That wasn't the case everywhere. And, they had each of us in 2-man cells in solitary. So you weren't with anybody, but you had more room to move your body. I was in a 5x8 cell in Marion County where I could take 3 steps. And, it's filthy place. Unbelievable. It was condemned. They tore it down shortly after. They were building a whole new system.
What was the food like?
Horrific.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's open enrollment, the season where health insurance companies hope you'll blindly sign up again for overpriced premiums and fine print that generates unpleasant surprises at all the wrong times. Well, I'm happy to say the Woods family doesn't play that game anymore. Affordable Care Act, don't make me laugh. We ditched the old-fashioned way and embraced crowd health, the alternative to the crazy American health insurance world. Otherwise, you sit there watching your premiums keep going up, you wonder what you're even paying for, and half the time the processes are opaque and you have to hire a private detective to figure things out. If that doesn't sound appealing, and it doesn't, then welcome to Crowd Health, the health insurance alternative. We're talking about health care for under $100. You get access to a team of health bill negotiators, low-cost prescription and lab testing tools, as well as a database of low-cost, high-quality doctors vetted by Crowd Health. And if something major happens, you pay the first $500, then the crowd steps in to help fund the rest. This all sounds familiar. It's a little like the options we used to have before Obamacare messed everything up. And of course, you'll join the crowd, a group of members just like you who want to help pay for each other's unexpected medical events. The system is betting you'll stay stuck in the same overpriced, overcomplicated mess. This year, it's even more complicated because most of the Affordable Care Act subsidies expire, which means your prices are going sky high. So far, Crowd Health members have saved over $40 million in healthcare expenses because they refuse to overpay for healthcare. This open enrollment, take your power back. Join Crowd Health to get started today for $99 for your first 3 months using code WOODS at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, code WOODS. Crowd Health is not insurance. Opt out. Take your power back. This is how we win. Joincrowdhealth.com, code WOODS. All right, so after you get out of solitary, what was it that did it? I mean, was it that now you're awaiting trial? I mean, why were you out?
That's Mark and Andy. They got the first release hearing was denied, and then I got another shot at it, and because I cooperated, which was telling them that I don't have anything, they made, that's what we go into in that interview. It's sort of the legal stuff that, I'm learning about now, and learned about through the process, stuff that I had no idea how it worked before.
Well, the thing is, in a way, they've got you dead to rights. I mean, apparently DC considers bear spray to be lethal. So there you are in the Capitol with a lethal weapon, according to them, and that carries a penalty. So it would seem like there's just no getting out of that. And yet, here I am talking to you. Now, I'm talking to you partly because there was eventually a pardon, but you had no way of knowing that was going to happen at some point.
Right. Had no idea. No.
Yeah.
I mean, and my mom, she passed away on March 21st this year, and which has been really hard for me, I think. But I think the only thing that kept her hanging in there is that she fully believed that Trump was going to get reelected and that he was going to pardon me. And then once that actually happened, I think she was finally ready to let go because she's been struggling with some health problems for quite a while.
But geez, John, thank God she lived to see it.
Yeah. And more importantly than that, thank God I wasn't in prison and she died.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, because I was really worried about that. Even when I was in jail, locked up in solitary, I was really concerned about my mom.
Do you feel comfortable talking about, in effect, how they got you free, and it had something to do with a hat you were wearing?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it already, and it's Mark and Andy and I did, but yeah, it was just because they thought I had some bigger role in that organization than I did. I'm a supporter of people that take, their oaths seriously. So when I first heard about them, I got the lifetime membership, and you get a bunch of swag. I got a silver coin and a hat and a T-shirt and a bumper sticker, and I don't know, whatever else, maybe a couple patches, and then the lifetime newsletter. And
but they thought that you were some kind of big mover and shaker in the movement because you had an Oath Keeper's hat,
a lifetime member hat, right?
And so it turns out, basically, guys, I just have the hat.
I mean, anybody thinks that it would be possible for me to be an organizer of some kind of militia, or however they painted those guys. All you have to do is look at my studio and tour schedule to know that that's asinine. I mean, I'm traveling all over the world constantly in recording studios around the world. Like it doesn't even compute. But it was sort of maybe a straw man. There was basically take this or we're going to add another 100 years of charges on top of the 60 you've already got.
Right. So basically what your lawyers did was they exploited the fact that the government assumed you had a lot of information. And so then they negotiated on the basis of that misapprehension. And then they go to sit you down and say, all right, Schaffer, spill the beans. What do you know about Oath Keepers? And you said, basically nothing other than I have this hat.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, and this was also happening in the metal press. Now, again, not that you would care, but especially in the metal press, they're saying, not only is Jon Schaffer a traitor to America, but he's a traitor to his own friends. He ratted them out. But there was no way to tell anybody. I actually didn't say anything because I didn't know anything.
Yeah, well, I don't want to use the word threatened, but it was pretty obvious that they didn't want me saying anything. So
yeah, it
was going to go very bad for me at sentencing. So.
Well, I have to say, I like the story about when the federal judge walks in and he says something like, forgive my butchering, and I should probably let you tell the story, but I just love it so much. He comes in and says, Mr. Schaffer, up to now I have been unfamiliar with your music, but I've been listening to some of it, and all I can say is, and then there's this pause, and he says, it's not my cup of tea. And
Yeah.
apparently everybody in the courtroom laughed at that. But that he then went on to say that he had seen footage of you performing in front of all these crowds that are all full of joy and happiness. And he concluded that just goes to show that you are a uniter, that you've been bringing people together. That's who you are. And so where did he go from there?
Well, I don't remember those details. I'd have to look at the court transcripts. I mean, but I think that was the overall sentiment. And he said that, I think he said something like, I hope your fans forgive you because you deserve to be forgiven. And then he sentenced me to 3 years of probation. And that was it. That was the end of the hearing. So,
when was this exactly?
It was at the end of October. I think the election was a week later, or maybe 10 days. I don't remember exactly, Tom.
So did the pardon of January 6th, or is that extended to you?
Yeah.
So did that cancel out your probation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But meanwhile, this has thrown your life completely into turmoil. You had professional colleagues who were too afraid to be associated with you anymore and publicly denounced you. And this was not an easy time, even when you weren't in solitary.
I would say that the 3.5 years after solitary was even harder, because every quarter it got continued and continued. And then, and I talked to Mark and Andy about this. I'm like, guys, if I've got to go to prison, I want to get started. I'm not going to get any younger here. I mean, it was almost harder because I couldn't really do anything. I mean, I'm grateful that I had that time down in Florida to take care of my mom and to be with her and stuff, for sure. But it was but Tom, it grew me. It was a painful growing process. And it's really has been a gift in the big picture to really see who is loyal and who I can trust and who I know are really there. That's a big deal. It brought me to Christ. I grew up a Christian, went to a Christian school, rebelled big time because of the things that I experienced at that school, being young, being angry. And, but I never had I was never anti-Christ. You know what I mean? But I just didn't get along with organized religion. I had a problem with that. But I always thought that Jesus was a serious badass. You know what I mean? Seriously. I know people are going to think that's funny, but so, I mean, I've even written songs about that kind of stuff, but this brought me into a personal relationship with Christ. And that's been the biggest gift of all through all of this. But then there's other things like finding out who your friends are, what really matters. It was a crucible and it was a gift. It was hard, but it was a gift.
What has this meant for you career-wise?
Well, I work for Attorneys for Freedom now. And so that, for me, the music business totally sucks. I mean, I've always hated it. But I endured it because of my songwriting passion, because that's the band was the vehicle, the guitar was the tool to make my songs a reality. That was the whole driving point. And right now I'm not feeling that. And dude, look, this is actually the 40th anniversary of when I started the band. So I did it. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs and had all these cool projects and played in over 100 countries around the world for decades. And it's like, I don't want to, if the songwriting comes back, then, who knows? But I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to force it. To me, that's a checkers move anyway, because that's what everybody would expect you to do. And I have had good offers from festivals and from some promoters over in Europe. I'm not going to pour myself out to the music business for Federal Reserve notes. I refuse to. And so it's got to be that there's a true passion there to want to write songs again. I mean, I've got enough classic records that I could get paid really good money to go out and play those full albums. I'm not going to do it. It's got to be about the songs, or I'm not in. And when this opportunity to work for Attorneys for Freedom came up, this is an activist law firm, and whatever way that I can contribute to trying to make things better, that's what I want to do. So I'm learning a lot. And I work for Attorneys on Retainer, which is the best self-defense coverage program in the United States. By far, it's totally revolutionary. There's nothing else like it on the market. It's not insurance-backed. We don't have the exclusions of all the insurance companies. And this is a catalyst to help push pro-freedom causes and to help fund that. And the AOR members know that a portion of their funds are going to pro-freedom causes, and for these guys to do what they love to do. So it's awesome. I mean, everything that's going on here is a really good thing. And I feel more, Tom, it sounds crazy, but I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. Right where I'm supposed to be. And that's for the first time in my life. And there's no accidents about how this happened. You know, I just feel that I hope, you know, it feels like an insurmountable task, but we've got to try, right? I mean, if we don't try, we're just rolling over to a lot of really ugly, evil stuff.
Friends, if you care about your liberty and your financial freedom, you need to hear this. From October 10th to 12th, my friend Mikkel Thorup, host of the Expat Money Show, and who's been a guest on this program several times. In fact, he even came and joined us on the Tom Woods Cruise this year, is bringing together top experts from around the world for the Expat Money Online Summit. And it's completely free to attend. You'll learn how to legally protect your wealth, secure second residencies and citizenships, reduce your tax burden, and own property abroad, all to safeguard your freedom. This year's focus is Latin America, where opportunity is booming. Argentina is shifting to free markets under Javier Milei. El Salvador is undergoing a radical transformation, and Panama and Paraguay are offering simple residency programs. A Plan B is no longer optional, it's essential. Reserve your free ticket at expatmoneysummit.com. That's expatmoneysummit.com. Well, I have a couple of just little recollections that I just can't help sharing. One is, you came to my Christmas party one year, and I remember walking around, and I overheard a conversation you were having with a random guest who had no idea who you were and who was telling you about the injustices that were being suffered by the January 6thers. And I thought, this person has no idea who he's talking to. You know, and you just didn't like, you know, you just wanted to be an anonymous attendee, so you just nodded politely. But the other thing was, there was a time when we had dinner together, and I had one of my daughters, you had your daughter, and on the way to the restaurant, I was explaining to Veronica what had happened to you and, you know, the injustices involved and the disproportionate response and all that. And by the time she got into the restaurant, she was all hopped up with righteous indignation about what had happened. And you, in effect, I remember, kind of calmed her down by saying, I went in and I shouldn't have done it. You know, I acknowledge I shouldn't have done it. And I thought, and I remember I wrote a character reference for you for the sentencing. And I recalled that episode, that showed that you weren't just defiantly shaking your fist, that you were saying, no, you know, in retrospect, this is something I shouldn't have done. And I also thought that was interesting. Because, you know, look, if I were standing there and somebody said they're beating up an old man, I could see that would justify my going in there. But geez, with all the chaos that day, and they're just looking to get people in trouble, well, maybe on balance, maybe I better not.
Yeah, it's just there was a force at work there, man. There was something that, and yeah, it was an impulsive decision to rush in there with people that I have no idea who they are. But I just think God works in mysterious ways, and there was a reason that I went through this, and it's beyond making a bad decision. I think that's my belief. I feel like I've always been so passionate about this stuff, but there was a lot of anger, righteous indignation, you could call it, but still anger. And that's actually not the way to fix anything. And in light of what happened to Charlie Kirk recently, we got to bring the temperature down. Like, I'm outraged by it too, but we're in a fallen state, man. And this is, I just don't want, I want reasonable discussions to happen amongst reasonable people. And if this goes too far out of hand, it can turn so badly. And I pray for our country every day, multiple times a day, because I love our country, but I care about people, and I care about people that disagree with me. I will fight for their rights to disagree with me. That's freedom. That's what it is. So it's like, but we got to get back to being reasonable with each other. And I'm concerned, man. Everybody talks about civil war like that's a no big deal. No, it's a huge deal. It's a very bad thing, especially there's no Mason-Dixon line. What are the neighborhoods going to be like? What are the police forces going to be like? There's so much division all over this country, and it's so much of it is manipulated. They're pushing people into this, and the people are becoming like so tribalistic, and we need to focus on the things that unite us, not the things that divide us, because there's way more things that unite us. And it's a concerning period, really is.
Were you named by name in the pardon?
No, it was a sweeping pardon.
Okay.
So for everybody, as far as I understand. I think there was some people that had their sentences commuted. I don't really know what the difference is. I haven't actually talked to Mark and Andy about that. But it was sort of a sweeping thing. And then my probation officer said, you need to get in touch in order for me to be able to get my expired passport back. I had to get, because it expired while I was locked up or while I was going through this, that I had to get that pardon, the letter from the pardon attorney. And I wasn't aware that I had to do that, but she helped me out with that. And then once I got that, she was able to release the passport to me. And then I have I have it saved on my phone. I carry it with me everywhere I go because they said, keep it with you. Some things take a long time to clear from the system. I say the last couple flights, I didn't have any problems, but before that, it was absolute hell trying to get on an airplane. And this is from a guy who's traveled millions of miles around this planet, for years.
Well, the thing is, even with a pardon, there are going to be some countries in the world that are, in their view, you're still a felon. Isn't that true?
I think it probably is. And most certainly the Five Eyes out of everybody, I would imagine. But I don't know what that means yet. I don't know. And I'm not, like I said, if these are things that we would have to really chase down if I was going to reactivate the band. I just don't have any plans to do that anytime soon. There's a lot of reissues and some unreleased stuff coming out. And, there's some cool things in terms of catalog stuff happening. But in terms of writing, I just don't feel it. I can force it. Why would I do that? If I do something, I want it to be the greatest thing that I've ever done. I don't want to. I don't want to do it just because I feel obligated. I know there's a lot of fans that have stayed loyal through this, and they really want new material, and they're encouraging me to come back. And but I got to do it. I'm an artist, man, and I had a long career, did a lot of records, and I know when the pressure is there and you're sort of going through the motions, and there's other situations going on in your personal life, that if you force it, it doesn't turn out to be the strongest material in your career. And that is, that's not my next move. That would be a checker move. And I'm not doing that. It's going to be because my heart is in it, because it's truly inspired. And then we'll see what happens.
Well, that's for all the Iced Earth fans out there wondering what the future holds. But for now, I think it's terrific for you. I mean, what an unexpected turn of events, isn't it, for you to now be working for Attorneys for Freedom? I mean, I'm sure that thought never crossed your mind.
Never,
Yeah.
not in a million years. And when Mark called me and offered it to me, I was like, well, I mean, what can I do for you, Mark? I'm a metalhead. And so he was just looking for somebody with high character, and he said, I don't care about experience. And so I came out and trained up, and we'll see where it goes. I think I have a real grassroots kind of street level experience in marketing, and maybe some of that can be useful for what the mission that we're on here. But Mark's definitely interested. He's more interested in high character pro freedom people than he is with people that have necessarily experience in this kind of work.
I mean, you, on the other hand, though, are a living testament to the effectiveness of these lawyers.
Yes. Well, and it's an honor to be working with them, because they're really amazing people. I mean, truly in it for the right reasons. And the Attorneys on Retainer program it is a very pro freedom movement. A lot of people think it's just Second Amendment, but there's more than that going on. I mean, that's huge. That's probably the biggest part of it, because there's a lot of jurisdictions around the country that are, criminalizing the heroes, the guys that are doing the right thing. And this is a pushback in a way, or a way to protect those guys, and to have the most, in my opinion, the most pro-freedom law firm in the country on their side to help them through. If there's an incident, think of Daniel Penny. If that guy would have been an AOR member, all of his legal fees would have been covered. And I think it sends a chilling effect when people do the right thing and stand up either for themselves or for the defense of the third party. For them to get charged criminally, it sends a chilling effect, and it makes people not want to do the right thing. I mean, if you look at the Ukrainian woman that was stabbed, I mean, it sickens me to think that that's where our society is, where supposed men just sit there. And not only did they, I mean, okay, it's one thing, did they let it happen? I mean, that was a fast thing. Nobody probably saw that coming. But then to do nothing? I can't even imagine that, dude. There's no way. I mean, I don't care enough about my life to not do the right thing. That's not an option. And so this program protects people who do the right thing and they get charged criminally, and as much as possible. And we don't have the exclusions that the insurance companies have. We believe every human being has the right to self-defense. So it's like, if you're a prohibited possessor, or you're in a gun-free zone, or your CCW permit's expired, or none of that stuff matters. If you use your fists, a pipe, whatever, any kind of self-defense is going to be covered. It doesn't just have to be a gun. And if you're criminally charged, we just have the 3 criteria, which is that you are charged or reasonably concerned about being charged with a felony or misdemeanor crime, that you, in good faith, assert that you acted in self-defense or defense of a third party, and that you were a member of Attorneys on Retainer before the incident happened. Those 3 criteria are met, we got your back. And that's that. There's nothing else. There's no other product on the market that has that. Not at all. They have a lot of hidden devil in the details kind of stuff in their contracts, and a lot of that is being exposed. And so I think that this is a great program. And besides that, it allows these guys to be the freedom activists that they are, to get involved in some heavy issues. I mean, Mark, right now, the reason why I'm in his office, well, we're doing a huge renovation over in the AOR side. So they're building a whole new studio for their podcast, a bunch of new offices. So that's under construction. But he's at a public school right now teaching kids about the founding of this country. And I hope there's somebody catches that on video, because I think all of the Attorneys for Freedom are going to be speaking to public school kids. And it's probably not going to be what the public schools really want them to hear. So it's a good thing.
What's the website people should know for you guys?
So there's attorneysonretainer.us. is for the AOR program. And then there's the attorneysforfreedom.com. That's the law firm. They're linked, so you'll be able to find it. But the attorneysonretainer.us is the website for in my view, it's the best self-defense coverage by far. I mean, they've completely revolutionized the market. It's not insurance backed. It's backed by the Attorneys for Freedom. And they're able to do it in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
Okay, tremendous. Well, I'll put those links up in the video description. Also, tomwoods.com/2696, the show notes page for today. Well, tell them hello for me.
And Mark wanted me to tell you hello as well.
Okay, well, very nice, very nice. I couldn't be happier about how it all ultimately turned out. And really, ultimately, you being in their offices is just a bonus neither of us could have expected. So really,
I know, it's crazy. It's a beautiful thing.
I have to say, I'm really happy to see that you're in what we call, a good place. You seem at peace with life.
I am definitely I am, man. I mean, like I said, I really feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be for the first time in my life, because the music industry was a battle. Everything was a battle all the time. And I did decades of that. And so it's like, this is a different kind of a battle, but it just feels right. And, I'm still definitely like coming out of it. I think the biggest thing that was affected from all of the solitary, the bright lights, freezing cold cell and stuff like that was the effect that it had on my memory, because my mind used to be just really razor sharp. And I feel like there's little parts of my life that were completely erased, and it's coming back. It's definitely coming back. And though I was not in any kind of comfort zone through all this, believe me, that who was not, but I was in this pulled me out of the cycle that I was in for the last few years. And it's sort of thrust me into switching that part of my brain on again and learning new things and getting out of my comfort zone, but also feeling so good about what we're doing here. It's a good thing. And so everything's going to be fine. I am at peace. I'm at more peace than I've ever been in my life. And I'm happy to be a part of this team, because it's bigger than what it looks like at a surface level. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt. Jon, thanks so much. I'm as an American, I feel like I want to apologize for what was done to you, but I'm glad you are where you are, and I appreciate the time you spent today sharing your story.
It's anytime, Tom. I consider you a good friend, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for what you do. You've been on the front lines of this for a long time, man.
Thank you so much, Jon. I appreciate you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Make yourself and those you love less vulnerable to the regime, both mentally and physically. Get more forbidden information at tomsfreebooks.com, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. See you next time.
Like the sound of The Tom Woods Show? My audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.